Hello guys, so today I'll be making a video showing you how to find out your AMD AM5 CPU stable undervolt and PBO advanced settings. So for this purpose I'll be using a Ryzen 5 7600X CPU, which is the one I own, but this should be applicable to any CPU that is not the X3D CPUs or not dual CCD CPUs. In this video I'll show you how I came at the conclusion of what are the stable undervolts which I can daily drive successfully without any sudden crashes. So let's just jump into it. Now let's look at the prerequisites that is needed to achieve this results. So first we'll need an AMD CPU, which is very obvious. Then we'll need AMD Ryzen Master software, and we'll also need Cinebench R23. We can also get hardware info 64 just to monitor our temperatures. So for the reason for getting AMD Ryzen Master is that we don't want to go to the BIOS and restart our PC every time when we apply new results. We want AMD Ryzen Master so that we can apply our undervolts on the go, and we don't need to restart our PC every time to get the new undervolts set. We need Cinebench R23 to check our stability and also check what are the new temperatures with the new undervolts and what are the changes with each undervolt. And lastly, we'll use hardware info 64 to see what are the temperatures and what are the power that is the CPU is taking and different measurements. So hardware info 64 is not really needed, but it is good to have. So these are the four things that we need, and let's start with the video. So let's start with the next section of the video. In this section we'll test the different settings. We'll go from curve offset -10 to -50. So first we'll try the default curve settings. Before that I'll show you my PBO settings already. So I'm using curve offset -30 on PBO advanced with 200 megahertz boost clock with PBO scalar 10. So here you can see my settings in AMD Ryzen Master, but as you can see I'm gonna change it to default settings right now for the purpose of the test, and I'm going to apply the settings. Now I'll also use the hardware info 64 in the background to monitor our temperatures and our boost clocks and base clocks, and also the PPT power required by our CPU. So here you can see that I've opened hardware info 64, and which will be kept open in the background. And I'll also use another software which is called fan control. I didn't mention it, but we'll use it to set our fan speeds to a manual 70% so that the fan speeds don't affect our results a little bit. So it is not a lot, but still I want to do it just for the sake of peace of mind. And now after I'm done with this, I'm going to start Cinebench. So here you can download Cinebench from the link I'll provide and how I showed you on the previous section. So you should download Cinebench R23, which I'll be using. And now I'll be opening Cinebench R23 and hardware info 64 side by side so that I don't have to use the CPU cursor during the test, so that it does not affect a little bit performance, because the cursor movement will use a little bit of CPU power. So now that this is open, we'll go to AMD Ryzen Master, and I'm showing you that it is at default profile, but expo is on. I can turn off expo, but for that I'll have to restart the system, as changing your RAM profile needs the system to be restarted, but you can change the CPU profile without restarting the system on AMD Ryzen Master. So for now the RAM profile will be at expo 1, but my CPU profile will be at default. And now we'll proceed with the test. There's no curve offset, and as you can see everything is at the default settings. This will be what you'll get if you buy the CPU new and you just put it in your AM5 system. So let's go ahead with the testing. So from now on I'll be editing this to make it a little bit faster, because the video was getting a little bit too long. So here I have opened Cinebench with hardware info on the side, and I'll be going through the different settings on AMD Ryzen Master. So the first setting I'm going through is the default settings. So you can see my default scores, and if you're really interested in knowing the average temperatures and the scores and the PPT, you should pause the video to check on them. But I have really sped up everything to 400% because it would have taken well over an hour to show everything at normal speeds with my original explanation. So I don't have a really big explanation, and actually in this video I'll also try to explain how to stable test and throttle test your perfect PBO settings once you find them. So in the background you can see on the video that I am checking the different settings on AMD Ryzen Master after checking the default settings. And in this if you pause the video, and you'll see that the main thing is that if our score is increasing, and as OBS Studio is running in the background, which is really CPU heavy, it is affecting our scores a lot. So the score that you see in this video should not reflect the real scores that we will get, because actually the CPU will get higher scores. So like the default scores, instead of 11,000 it should be around 13 to 14,000, and it will go towards 15,000 as we reach towards minus 30, minus 35, and even minus 40 and minus 45. But and in the start, you could have seen that my highest score was 15,103, which was achieved on a minus 35 PBO with 200 megahertz boost clock with 10x scalar. So you can see, if you pause and look at the scores and think, okay, that's really bad, it's because OBS Studio is running in the background and it is taking a lot of resources. And in every setting, I'm on the bottom corner, I'm showing you the hardware info stats. You can see the average temperature, the max temperature, the score, and what was the packet power consumed, what were the boost clocks, and what were the base clocks during the test. So I actually explained them originally in my video, but the video was getting too long, so sorry, I had to cut off the explanation. I just hope that it's okay without the explanation. So I'll proceed to explain how to, like, after these tests, how you should go about picking which one is your best score. So it will be kind of spoilers, because of course I'm adding this in the post edit and I already know the results, and I'll also tell you based on my experience. So as I told you already that I was running PBO minus 35, and it crashed on me once in 4 months. So it was almost stable, and I'm saying almost stable because it crashed after 4 months. So PBO minus 30 will be the sweet spot, and the temperatures will also not go that high. And one more thing before I tell you, that in this test the main thing is, even if the score is increasing not by a lot because of OBS in the background, the main thing we have to see is the temperatures. The temperatures are not getting near the 95 C mark, and they should be ideally be below 90 C, and our boost clocks and the base clocks are also increasing a lot. So as you will see, at default our base clocks were really falling at 5 gigahertz, which is well below the 5.1 gigahertz which is advertised. But as we move towards minus 30 PBO, our base clocks are at 5.2 gigahertz, 5.3 gigahertz, which is really good. Like 5.3 gigahertz was supposed to be the Ryzen 5 7600X boost clock that is advertised. So 5.3 gigahertz as the base clock on a multi-threaded performance is really good, and that is why I picked minus 30 and minus 35 as the best option that you could go with. And even as the power requirements for the chip is low because of the curve offset, it is also good. And it is not like minus 40 and minus 45, they have a, like, the curve offsets are very extreme because there's very less power going to the CPU. The CPU will be very unstable at those offsets. So you can like, even if your Cinebench run is going to run at minus 40 and minus 45, and at minus 45 I even got my 10-minute Cinebench R23 run to go. Like, it worked at minus 45, I got 15,000 score. But as soon as I closed Cinebench and I just used my desktop on daily normal browsing, it crashed. It hard My system hard crashed, and it showed that it was unstable. So like, it could only work at minus 45 if you had really, like, you were doing some intensive task, and as soon as it had to transition to a lighter task and it had to change its at the load level for the CPU, the CPU crashed. And the same thing was happening at minus 40. At minus 40 it was not as much. Like, I tried minus 40 and I was able to run minus 40 for like maybe 4 days before my PC crashed. So I was really not comfortable with minus 45 and minus 40. So I went to minus 35, and as you see, like I ran minus 35 once. That was a few months ago in January 2026, and it worked for 3 or 4 months, and it crashed once, and I changed it to minus 30. So in your for you, minus 35 could really be better if you have a better chip. It depends on the silicon lottery. So for you, minus 35 could really be something that stays stable for a long time. For me, minus 30 was the sweet spot because I have been running minus 30 for a long time, and there has not been any hard crashes at all or any system instabilities at all. I have been playing Valorant. I have been using it for daily surfing. I have been using it for Cinebench also, and I've done 3D Mark CPU tests also, CPU profile tests, and nothing has been really different. And talking about 3D Mark, yes, we can use 3D Mark, but 3D Mark, in my opinion, 3D Mark has some problems, and for CPU, 3D Mark is not really the gold standard. Like Cinebench R23, specifically the R23 version, is like the gold standard for CPU benchmarking, and even OCCT test is like used, but I prefer Cinebench because it is more widely used, and Cinebench R23 is the best because not everyone is using the 2024 version or the 2025 or the 2026 version, and the methodology of scoring in the newer tests have been changed. So R23 is currently the one that is most widely used, so I've been using R23 in these tests. As you could see, I've gone on to PBO minus 30, and you just saw the results, and now I'm going to minus 35 and minus yeah, I'm going to minus 30 right now. Yes, and you can see that the results are very different right now. Like the temperatures are not going above 90 C, and the boost clocks and the base clocks are really good. Like the boost clocks are at 5.5 gigahertz because we added the 200 megahertz, and the base are at 5.3 gigahertz, which is like the optimal you could get. And the temperatures are not going above 86 C, so like not even 90, it's at 86 C. At minus 35 it is at 86 C, at minus 30 it is, I think, at 88 C to 90 C. So I think it's really good, and for most people I think minus 30 to minus 35 C and 35 curve offset will be the sweet spot. But I'm posting this video so that you are willing to try to go to up till minus 40 or minus 45. Minus 45 will be really hard for people to run, and maybe it will lead to a hard crash. And don't worry about a hard crash because your system will not fail because of a hard crash. It will just reset back to its default values again. So don't worry about it. But like if you're worried, you can just skip doing minus 45 and maybe even minus 40, or minus 40 will be fine, but it's up to you. I think minus 30 will be the sweet spot for most of the people because it was the sweet spot for me, but I'm not really sure if my CPU is really good or if everyone's Ryzen 5 7600X is like this. So that was all for this video, and I've told you also how to test. So while if you want to test, the next thing is, if you want to test, you should do a Cinebench R23 10-minute test. Then you should do a 30-minute stability test. Then after that test, without restarting your PC, just use your PC for light browsing, like watch YouTube and do something else. And if you do that, and like if you keep on doing that for like suppose the next 2 or 3 hours, and if your system doesn't crash, or if it doesn't have a hardware error, like if you have hardware info 64, in the end it will show you WHEA, so it shows Windows hardware error, and it will show you if anything occurs. And if anything occurs which does not lead to a to a system crash, it should log into that, and you should check into that also. That's why I keep hardware info 64 running in the background, just to make sure that there are no errors. And right now at minus 30 I didn't face any errors, and even at minus 35 I didn't have any errors for the most of the time. So that is how you should do your stability testing, and I hope this will help you guys. So peace out.